So I just got done with the private here at Shintaro Higashi's dojo in New York City. Also, I just came from Colton Brown's from the last couple days, training up there, and I've said this a lot, but I feel very fortunate, very lucky, and just humbled to be able to have opportunities like this, especially being a 43-year-old, you know, with not a ton of accomplishments, but I love teaching and I love judo. So, Well Rounded Grappler, Shintaro Higashi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And like I just told Shintaro, I love his stuff, his discussions with Peter Yu. He has, what, hundreds of hours of technique video?
Yeah, tons.
I mean, so much stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely check his stuff out. People, not just judo people, but you know, wrestlers and jiu-jitsu players that are watching. Check out some stuff for Shintaro. So, so this is a club that's been around for a long time. It says 1963. So was it your dad that started the club, or was it somebody else?
Yeah, so this, as we know it, my father started it, but there was a couple of guys here. They had a connection to the New York Buddhist church upstairs. Mm-hmm. They had a couple of teachers that would come every now and then. And then, so this space was already here, but then when my father came over from Kokushi University to spread judo globally, this was his thing. In 1963 was when it was established, and it just kind of kept going.
Yeah.
Since then. So long history here.
Was this the first one in New York?
I mean, they all say like the oldest dojo, but yes, we were one of definitely the earliest ones here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been here in the same location since 1963, which is kind of nuts.
Is your dad still around?
Yeah, he is.
Is he going to come tonight?
No, he's not coming.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
About 2 years ago, he retired. And then he hasn't been coming
At
much.
85?
Yeah, 85, yeah.
That's a good time to just hang it out.
Yeah, like, you take it on, you know, that kind of a thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I am a firm believer in the philosophy that kind of you're talking about, Justin Flores, a couple people in the judo community, how it's important that we start to blend the techniques together. But in reality, when you think back to old judo, it kind of all came from judo, right? Like, you know, the leg grabs, that folk style wrestling, you know, they got influence from judo. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of today, big time influenced by judo. But, you know, I would like to see, you could think of it either as a blended art or old school judo. You know, so what's kind of your thoughts on this stuff? I know that you're a big proponent of all the different arts, but I think that both of us really are trying to promote judo the most. But we want to incorporate everything. So what's your thoughts on some of that stuff?
Well, I think like judo has a martial component and a sport component, you know. And then when you're talking about sport of judo, sport of wrestling, sport of jiu-jitsu, now you're entering into the grappling realm. So there's a lot of overlap and things that are kind of like prevalent in jiu-jitsu, prevalent in wrestling and judo, and there's crossover, and there's different styles. You know, like you get a guy that does a lot of Greco-Roman upper body style that has a lot more crossover with judo than a guy that does low singles. You don't see any low singles in judo anymore.
No.
But firemen's carry finishes and things like that, depending on the type of grappling that you do, you know, there's some more similarities than others. So the martial side really makes it unique, I think, the judo side, right? Because there is the embedded philosophy of like respect and mutual welfare and benefit. And, you know, the things about the social side of things and the academic side of things is it's been there for forever. So, you know, I think there's definitely merit in sort of looking at it from these two different lenses. You know, if you look at it from like a martial standpoint, a martial arts standpoint, then, you know, the judo lens and the jiu-jitsu are a little bit different, right? So yeah, definitely, you know, I think about it a lot, you know, cross-training. I love wrestling. I love jiu-jitsu also. But yeah, definitely a judo guy first and foremost, I think, you know, and there's a nice thing about that, you know, I'm a martial artist, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to be training here for, you know, both the beginner and advanced classes tonight. But as far as just, you know, during a general judo class, are you teaching a little bit more to the current rules of judo, or are you incorporating leg attacks and a little bit longer holding on the grips and more time on the ground? Like what's kind of your you know, aim for judo as far as currently?
So, I mean, it depends on who's in the class.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have a lot of jiu-jitsu guys. You know, there's a lot of, we call them even like sleeper Asians. You know, we have like black belt jiu-jitsu guys that are wearing a regular judo belt. In a judo gi, you'll never know that they were nasty at jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, we have like a majority of the room does a lot of jiu-jitsu. So for me to do newaza might be a little bit like, you know. So it's like I'll focus on a little bit more of that. If those guys want to do a little bit more leg grab stuff, I'm more than happy to show it. But generally, we sort of follow the path of the regular IJF sporting judo because it's familiar. And there's things from there that are very useful that people can kind of immediately do. And that's the core of judo no matter what, you know. And sometimes I'll like break the curriculum kind of and just do double leg takedowns and single leg and things like that. Focus on the ground. And really, you know, I teach to the room, you know. And I don't know if that's a good thing from a scalability standpoint, but, you know, that's what I do, you know. So
no, that's awesome. I change stuff all the time depending on who comes to class because it's super unpredictable. And you know, the place that I teach is like the majority of judo clubs throughout the United States. You know, 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, and mostly beginners. So sometimes it'll be a couple brand new people. And then maybe 1 or 2 other white belts. So, I mean, we'll spend some extra time on break falling. I use the crash pad a lot because I have, you know, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that are coming to do it. And I'm really happy that they're there. But I don't want to, like, scare them away.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Because, I mean, it's important. And, you know, the whole philosophy of, like, jiu-jitsu is for everyone. Judo said that way earlier.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
and
I mean, they didn't really follow through with it, but you know.
But I really like the martial side. You know, they encompass. You know, you can think of it as old school judo or you know grappling in general with you know judo kind of centric. Because I coach wrestling, so you know we do some leg attacks here and there. We don't worry about if I'm doing you know a belt grip or a 2-on-1 grip. I don't really tell the people, okay, you got 5 seconds to throw, you got 5 seconds to throw. It's like, let's just work here. Let's move them around, right? And then when you feel that you're able to throw, just go ahead and go, but don't worry about time limits and things like that. Because I really have focused more on the recreational side of judo, which is exact opposite of how I came up through the system. You know? Would you consider your club a little bit more on the recreational side? Or more towards the competitive, or what is it like as of you know today or the last year?
You know, definitely a lot of recreational guys here, hobbyist guys, and you know that's kind of the majority. Right?
It is.
People go to work all day. They want to look for an outlet. They want to have fun. They want to grapple. They want to learn. They want to cross train with jiu-jitsu. You know, majority of the people don't specifically seek out judo. You know, they didn't grow up watching it on TV. We don't have that luxury here in the United States, right? So it's almost as if, you know, people are coming in for their reason, whether it's self-defense, physical fitness, making friends, or doing for jiu-jitsu, or I have a wrestling background, whatever the reason may be. You can almost put them in this bucket here, you know? And those guys come in for that reason, and then it's fun enough for them to keep coming. Before they know it, they love judo. They want to keep doing it. They want to learn more about it. So it starts a little bit more sort of the recreational hobbyist side, and I feel like some of the true traditionalist methodologies kind of hurt a lot of the attendants. You know, you come in, it's like, no, you have to bow, and you have to this, and yes, sensei, and this and that.
Right.
It's like, whoa, you know, you're walking into something completely brand new, so different, detached from everyday, day-to-day stuff. You know, I feel like it deters people from sticking around, you know? So we definitely start off in a way where it's very much so hobbyist, recreational oriented. And out of the crop of people who do come here, you know, we get a very small percentage of the guys that want to keep pursuing higher and higher. Who want to, and you're going to have that no matter what, you know? But I think you need that big base first. You know, if you have 10 guys, 15 guys, anyone could be an outlier. You know, but you have 100 people in the room, not a room, but like consistently coming, signed up all the time, then you're going to get 10 people who are going to be wanting a little bit more. And then you could develop those guys separately. As to not have sort of like this 2-tier program of like, oh, these are got my special guys, and these guys are 2nd-tier citizens, you know. You definitely don't want to create anything like that. So first and foremost, recreational, hobbyist, you know, stepping a little bit away from traditional side of things, but, you know, there's always a flavor of the traditional side, you know, especially being Japanese and all, you know. People are like, the guy's very traditional. Authentic Japanese martial arts, like, you know.
I know one thing that happened to me, because I did judo for probably 17 or 18 years before I started doing jiu-jitsu. And what it did for me is it showed me kind of how restrictive judo can be as far as the rule sets.
Yeah.
And it taught me to get off of the shot clock mentality.
Yeah.
You know, and it slowed my judo down, but in a good way. And then it really helped me focus more on the movement, the kazushi, you know, feeling stuff instead of always having that, I'm on a shot clock. I got to shoot. I got to shoot. I got to shoot.
Yeah.
You know, did you have a little bit of experience like, because when did you start jiu-jitsu? And did you get a little bit of the same feeling like I'm talking about?
Yeah, I had a weird in and out with jiu-jitsu. You know, I went in the summer, you know, to this jiu-jitsu school near my house when I was in maybe like college or something. And then I walked in and they gave me a blue belt on the spot, you know, after a practice. And then so I started as blue and then I did it for the summer and then I didn't do it for a little while. And then I spent the summer training at Henzo Gracie with John Donaher and he gave me my purple belt after summer, at the end of the summer when I went back to college or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I stepped away from it for years and years and years. And then, you know, we'd always have jiu-jitsu guys in the room. So I had to work out with those guys. And, you know, I'm good friends with Brian Glick. You saw him today. And me and him, we've been trading lessons for over a decade.
Oh, he was
now.
here today.
He was here, yeah. Sensei Glick.
The guy that was teaching?
Yeah, that's Brian Glick.
I did not know that.
That's him, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we trade lessons. We've been working out for, you know, 10, 15 years. And then maybe like a year or two ago, I started training a little bit more like in the room. You know, so I started going to Central Jiu-Jitsu with JT Torres, you know. And then, you know, Nick Damjoni, Marcus Johnson, all these great jiu-jitsu teachers are there. And I got to kind of take class. Yeah. And I did it for about a year of like actually taking class, you know. I was already a black belt by then, but. Right. So it's kind of on and off, you know, but probably total of like, I don't know, a year, 2 years of like training all the time kind of a thing. Yeah. So unconventional, you know.
So how did it change your judo? How did it you know, make you a better judo player, do you think?
You know, unfortunately, during my competitive years, I wasn't good on the ground that much, and I relied mostly on my stand-up. And I wrestled in college, right? But I was terrible on top bottom. Yeah, so, but I was pretty good on my feet. So it was like I won a lot of matches that way. And unfortunately, back then it was 2-point takedowns, not 3 like it is now. You know, and boy, did I miss out on that one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, by the time I learned all the jiu-jitsu, you know, it's almost too late for me to do competition. Then I could do some, you know, but it doesn't really appeal to me anymore. I'm 40, you know. Even sitting here looking at you hurt my neck. Yeah, right? It's like looking in one direction the whole time, you know. I don't know if you know about that, but like, you know, getting old. Oh, yeah. So, you know, I love grappling still. You know, I worked out with you today, and I'm going to probably work out a little bit tonight. Yeah. But I'm okay with kind of just dabbling with it now. I don't need to be the best in the world.
Being a sensei.
Being a sensei, yeah. You do some sensei judo, hang out, teach some, inspire others to kind of, you know, seek out greatness in the sport and, you know, really just getting the word out there. That's what my whole YouTube thing is about, you know, getting guys to watch judo, learn judo, understand it, and love it. You know? Yeah. So ways that we can, you know, grow judo as a whole or start to, you know, get past some of these boundaries and overlap these grappling styles. I know that both of us do some judo for jiu-jitsu clinics. Yeah. You know, we promote things in our class that says, okay, this takedown will be a little bit more specific for jiu-jitsu. This will be a little bit more specific for judo. We talk about judo. We go and travel. What are some other ways that we can start crossing these boundaries? And ideally, maybe growing judo is kind of the heart of it, but kind of just growing grappling is in general. Yeah, I think making content's a big one. You know what I mean? Judo is so aesthetically beautiful. You know, you rip a tile. Even you were just doing Sanagi. It was gorgeous. You know,
Thank you.
You cut the.
Thank you very much.
You gain a little bit of position, attack Kochi. They step back, and then they push them back, and you go underneath, and then it's like this thing, right? Yeah. And then so showcasing more of that. Yeah. You know, people don't put judo on as much, and you know, you go to IBJJF tournament, everyone taking selfies and posting stuff and stories. Right. You go to a judo grand slam, man, they're high-level professional athletes. No one freaking taking TikToks or videos or making videos. Yeah. They're there. They're focused. You know, you don't see NFL players like, oh, I'm on the field and this and that, and, you know, we're getting prepared for the halftime, and, you know, coach is saying, you don't see any of that stuff, right? You know? Yeah. And it's kind of like that in judo, but I wish they would a little bit. Yeah. Because even like a dedicated warm-up area at a grand slam, it's unbelievable. You know, you get 400 guys back there.
Yeah.
And they're all top athletes. Top athletes. And you get those guys just drilling, and just seeing that is actually really, really cool. So we want to see more of that, and we want to see those guys show technique. But a lot of money's on the line for these guys. It's their lifestyle. It's their career.
Yeah.
So they don't want to show their best stuff and put it on the internet and whatnot. And I get that. But having good consumable content for the sport I think is major.
Right.
And I don't know how to edit videos. I don't, it's people like, oh man, you're a whiz at this thing. I contact all that stuff out, I try to do as little as possible.
Right,
Minimum effort, maximum efficiency, right? So I have the guy on the camera. It's usually one shot and done, and I send it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people with better skills than I have that all these guys are probably capable of making really, really interesting content. I hope they start popping up, and little by little we're getting that. But I can't be the leader, in content. I'm just a guy that just likes judo, and I live in New York. Right. So hopefully we see more. And hopefully this thing takes off for you, and then you make more content, and it's good for all of us.
Yeah. I believe this will be episode 53.
That's great.
So if people that are interested in listening to other things. So the first 50 episodes were audio only. Yeah. So just the last couple have been video. But, if anybody wants to listen to my interview with Jason Morris, I have 2 with Ryan Reeser.
Oh, I love Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan's awesome. I just had Colton Brown on for the second time. I had Gracie Jividen.
Nice.
That's going way back. I've had Steve Scott.
I don't know who that is.
He lives out in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think his judo club's been open like 50 years.
Wow.
He's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
So check those episodes out. But from here on, you're going to have a video option, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So what would be, some ways that you think that we need to change the mindset in grassroots judo? Because I talked with Colton about this too, and it seems like this question needs to be asked. How do we get from the mindset of we're going to open a judo club, we're going to charge people only $20, we're barely going to make enough money to keep the lights on, everybody's a volunteer, and you're not prepping people to take over the program, so then when the sensei gets 70 years old, nobody wants to take it over because it's free work, and it actually costs you money to run the club. Yeah. So what are some ways do you think that we could start changing the mentality of judo as far as that? And do you think that that's the way that judo is going to survive, or do you think that the cheaper the better is going to last?
No, cheaper the better is the worst idea ever.
Right.
And judo should be free is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. The guys dedicate their whole lives. Why do we value anything that's free?
No.
We go to the store down the street. I know I can go to Saiget and get a freaking $18 sandwich. It's delicious. You go to a bodega and they charge you $4. You wonder, what is this thing? I'm not eating this thing, right? That's just a classic New York value example. Same thing in judo. A lot of these clubs sort of compete on price, and then it's a race to the bottom, as always. And you don't want to compete on price. And I'm not saying price fix and then say everyone charges this much, but there should be a standard, right? And if you develop a skill throughout your life and you're providing value to the people and providing a service to the people, you should be able to charge for that. And, I think one of the things that a lot of these guys have this mentality of volunteer mindset. It's like you can make money. You can have a pretty lucrative career teaching judo, having your own club. And there's judo, teaching judo, and business.
Right.
And it needs to be the integration of all three, because you could be really, really, really good at judo. I know guys who are unbelievable judo, can't communicate and can't teach for anything. They're half autistic, half they're just in their own mind, and they're a savant, but they can't transfer any of that knowledge.
Sure, yeah.
Well, what use is that to anyone in the whole world? No, there's no use for that, right? There's no value for that, right? And then, maybe you're a great communicator, but you're a terrible businessman, And then the place is dirty, people don't get the thing, and then there's no billing, and that's not going to work either.
No.
So I think getting the word out there that, you can have a successful business, and you can do what you love and live that dream, I think is the biggest piece. When people see that, I mean, it's basic economics, really. You have 200 students paying $200, $40 grand a month.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's like that's pretty good, 40 grand a month times 12, that's 480 G's and gross income. That's not bad, just gross.
No, it's
Of
not
course,
bad.
that's not the margin. That's not what you take all that stuff in that. If there's overhead and expenses,
course,
but now all of a sudden you can hire someone to run the front desk. You could hire someone to clean, gi laundering, whatever it is that you may do, right? You can do, right? And once you have that base, I don't care about money. Judo should be free. It's like, no, now you have enough funds to send kids to things and subsidize people who can't afford it. That's more of doing a favor than everyone's free. Everyone's, that's not going to work.
Do you think that that's the reason that judo has been on the decline is because of that free mentality?
I mean, there's multiple reasons.
Do you think it's high? Do you think it's the number one reason?
I think it's one of the higher reasons, and it came with a lot of the mentality of the Japanese mentality, but the Japanese mentality now is different than, Japanese mentality from I'll give you an example, my father's time period. When he was born, right? World War II was still going on. World War II ended when he was 8.
Yeah.
So he was starving. He lived near an airport. There were bombings, all this stuff. So he really felt the brunt of poverty. So coming through that in the 1950s and 60s Japan, that's the economic boom happened in the 80s and 90s. You know what I mean? So back in the day, there was a real scarcity mindset, and then that coupled with martial artists don't want and need anything, So it's like that. Then he comes to the United States and he's preaching this stuff. He's like, when I was a kid, didn't eat anything. You don't charge for judo. Judo's free. You got to volunteer. Right. This is for your body and your mind. And now all of a sudden, that gets pushed down to the next generation. And now all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, we're in a different time here. Price per square foot, New York City, that's no joke, right? Yeah. So it's like, you can't really sustain that kind of a philosophy. Right.
And the landlord's like, hey, rent's going up.
Yeah, rent's going up. But even it's not the landlord's fault either, because his taxes are going up. So it's like this whole thing, it definitely plays a major role, I think, because the United States is a very capitalistic thing, and you look at jiu-jitsu, and there is money in jiu-jitsu, and there's a whole economy behind it, and the average person who does jiu-jitsu is 34 years old and buys 5 gis, right? So, you know what I mean? It doesn't really add up, if you look at it like that. So, it's definitely a major factor why judo is where it is today.
Sure. Yeah, because, worldwide, it's still big, and Americans in general, right? We kind of just see what's, in our country. Yeah. We don't really see what's happening in the rest of the world. So, judo is, I don't know how big it is in the world comparative to what it was 20 years ago. I don't know if it's bigger or smaller, but I know that it's, it's gigantic in certain areas of the world.
Yeah.
France, Japan, Korea, the stand countries. Places like that, so.
I read all these different statistics, who knows what's true. And I've heard 50 million people are doing judo worldwide. And how many of them are registered, 2 million in Japan, 1 million in France. But majority of those guys are in the school systems. So that doesn't really convert to this capitalistic thing we're talking about here. But, you got Gunji on the professional team in Japan.
Yeah.
There's 20 guys on that team. And they're all getting a full-blown salary. And they're training, everything is compensated full blown. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the one pro team.
Sure.
There's 30 of them, 40 of them.
Right.
And then you get that's the A level pro teams, then you get the B level pro teams, and then you get the pro league in Germany, Absenberg and all this stuff. So it's definitely out there, and then you look at Georgia and Russia and Uzbekistan, and you get the national government, NGBs, and these guys pay money. And the Ministry of Sport pays money, and then there's, linear TV is still such a big part of IJF TV, right? JudoTV.com, and linear TV in countries like Georgia, Uzbekistan, they still get advertising money. So they take the feed, they show it on their version of ESPN, and they drink this sport drink, Whatever, they have to pay for that slot. So globally, it's still a thing, and it's still, but majority of these places, Russia, Bulgaria, Uzbekistan, we have no access to that. We don't really see what's going on over there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab something to drink you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Want me to grab a water for you?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Where'd that water go? That was sitting here. Cool. Is it cool to bring this
bring it on
the mat?
Bring it on
Cool.
the mat, yeah.
Thank you. Oh. Yep. But what you're talking about as far as some of these teams, some of these people that are paid for judo, I mean that's a super small percentage.
It is.
What's some ways, like how important is grassroots judo, not just in the United States, worldwide, and how do we get back to getting the numbers up in judo? How do we promote it as really judo can be for everybody? As long, like we, at my club, we do a lot of crash pad work, and I'm selective on how we throw, and if we're going to do, pretty, I call them low elevation throws, Tani Otoshi or some different Ashiwaza type stuff, we don't get out the crash pad for that, but anything to where we're lifting, I get out the crash pad. So, so how important is grassroots judo? And, what can we do as a whole to not just promote the professional side of judo, but really promote that grassroots level?
Yeah, I mean, majority of judo is grassroots. You got 95% of people doing it. It's at this level in the dojo, So it's like, all right, how do you get from 50 million theoretical guys doing judo to 100 million? That's a crazy idea. Oh, marketing, money, whatever. But if you look at each and every individual dojo and you double the dojo from 40 members to 80 members, and if everyone did that, we could have that. How do we do this? You know what I mean? And I think the old mentality of like, here's the curriculum, here's the Gokyo, these are the techniques and these are the moves, I think it's got to go. And a lot of traditionalists will be upset by that because it's already the perfect curriculum. I think, there's no gamified element, in terms of like gripping. Position, how to take the hand off, right versus right versus left, who's winning, who's losing. A lot of these fleeting moments that are happening in between throws, there's no focus on it. And there's no games to support that. And I'm not one to say, games are the key or ecological approach is the key. I'm not one of those guys. But I think it needs to be taught different, approached different. Because if it's like, this is a throw, Osoto, this is a throw, arm throw, this is how you do it from a static position, go do it, no one can freaking do it. It's very frustrating. And when you do it, that person might get injured. So it's like there's a lot of things happening in between, that it's just missing context. And people just teaching judo the way they've been taught, I think is a real crime, because it's not working for a majority of the people. So I think it's the most important thing to get grassroots judo going. And then if you double the worldwide population from 50 to 100 million, that's a whole new ballgame. We're entering in a different territory here. So I think it's extremely important to help these smaller dojos, succeed.
Right. And also, when I'm talking with people, because I teach judo at a jiu-jitsu gym, right? Trying to get jiu-jitsu players to come over and try it, which is difficult. And asking people, from outside the gym to come and try martial arts, try judo. I mean, I tell them to try anything, try jiu-jitsu, try judo. It kind of depends on the person. Like some kids I say, you should put them in wrestling. Other kids, I'm like, you should put them in jiu-jitsu. But some of the time, like when I talk with people, they're like, oh, I don't want to do judo because I don't want to get thrown on my head, all the time. And I'm like, well, that's really not what it's like. I mean, it's a small percentage of it. So judo kind of is getting a little bit of a bad rap. I mean, when you talk to people that are unfamiliar, are you getting, I mean, it could be just an excuse, but still, people are perceiving it like, I'm going to get slammed on my head all the time. Have you heard that?
Oh, judo has a marketing problem, it's dangerous, you can get hurt. Oh, it doesn't work in real life. You can't grab legs. All these different rules. What if they don't have a jacket? There's all these different things that there's reasons why not to do it. And it's pretty prevalent in the minds of the thing. Right. And I love that you're helping grow judo through the means of jiu-jitsu. They already have a population. They already have an audience. But you have jiu-jitsu experience, right? But a lot of these guys who are trying to teach jiu-jitsu guys, hey, come, let me show you some judo. They have no jiu-jitsu experience. So some of these things that they might go on, it's like, okay, I go like this and I grab like this and I go for uchimata. What's preventing the guy from grabbing the leg? Oh, in judo you can't grab the legs. Well, this is useless to me. Right. Yeah, so all these different things that you're not going to really know. You have to do jiu-jitsu also if you're going to teach jiu-jitsu guys judo. So there really needs to be, looping back to our original thing about the cross training and the right? Just focusing on grappling, period. You know, I think that's a thing that kind of gets overlooked frequently.
Yeah, yeah. And whenever I'm teaching, like I'll show a certain technique, like maybe it's ogoshi, right? We'll do an ogoshi, and then I'll stand on top. We'll have the sleeve like I'm supposed to, and then I say, okay, you can go knee on belly here, you know, or you can go to side control from here.
Yeah.
So I say this is like jiu-jitsu centric.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we throw and I get the crash pad out and we roll through, and I'm like, this is judo centric.
Yeah.
Can you use it in jiu-jitsu? I mean, yes, but it puts you in a precarious situation, you know.
You can always land on the guy and break his wrist, but you know, you don't do that to a training partner.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah. But I talk about that a little bit, and I think that that's important too. And, you know, again, going back to like teaching more like either you could think of it as old school judo or a combination of grappling. You know, like I teach something and I talk about, okay, I'd rather have options here. Like I could throw and go down and land in side control, and that's great. But wouldn't it be better if I throw and I have an arm, now I have a choice of different things I could do? I can go to mounts. I can go for an arm bar. If it's self-defense, I can stomp and run. You know what I mean? Like there's different options, and I kind of like that broader approach. Do you do kind of stuff like that sometimes? Do you talk about that, okay, this would be more like completely judo, okay, this would be a little bit more for jiu-jitsu?
Sometimes I do definitely, this is more so for jiu-jitsu, this is more effective. Like a tomonagi is very good for jiu-jitsu guys, so it's more merit to teach. You know, if I had an option of teaching tomonagi to a jiu-jitsu guy versus a taitoshi, it's probably going to be tomonagi.
Tomonagi,
you know?
Absolutely.
And go for koshiguma, you give up your back, you know, against like a Greco guy or something. Not as good. So there's definitely, you know, weightings on all the different techniques. You know what I mean? And then some people are here for self-defense. You know, and they're a lot of it, they won't say self-defense, but there's a fear, right? Always. You know, you're in the New York City subway systems. You know, you been on it yet?
I took the train from Plainfield in. Is that part of the subway?
No. You gotta go on the New York City subway. Take the train out to Brooklyn or something. There's definitely a fear, you know. So it's like, all right, you know, like we're playing a judo game, forcing a shido. You're playing the ledge. You're pressuring forward, and then you take away the pressure. They push back, and then you're entering the throw. But if you're on the subway and the guy's trying to push you up the platform, this is what, you know, how you would or whatever it is, and you know, you're pushing up and then you're using your legs and you're keeping a wide stance, kind of like a sumo thing. You know, in wrestling you get push-out points, right? They do that now, right? Freestyle.
Yeah, in freestyle. I think it needs to be added to folk style. You know, I really do, and I'm not the only one that thinks that.
I don't even know the inbounds, out of bounds rules now for collegiate wrestling.
You know, and then you know, it's like, okay, it's now a toe in. You know, or at the high school level, it's like, okay, you can go out and your knees can be up, but then they have to go down, or you take them out of bounds and your knees have to slide in order for them to still be in bounds. And if you raise your knees too, it's like, what, man? It's confusing.
Used to be, I think when I was wrestling, you know, it was like 2 feet in or something like that.
Right.
Maybe, I think that was the rule. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's relevant, right? Like for the push-out thing, like just kind of, it's sumo, it's wrestling, you know, it's linemen, it's guys pushing each other. So it's like that stuff is kind of useful, and that's puts that like immediate, like, oh, if I was ever in a situation when somebody, I want to drive someone back or push someone back, I have the technique to do so. And is there a name for it in judo? No. But you get any judo player on the international circuit, they'll know how to play the ledge, they'll know how to push them out of bounds. Right now they changed the rule. So you don't get penalty right away if you step out of bounds. It's different now. But it's still kind of relevant, right? Playing the corners, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I'll do things like that, you know, to make it kind of matter to you.
I think also
you know?
one
Who
thing.
Who cares about Gokyo? You know? Right? Who does? You know? Most guys don't. You know? Maybe me and you might. Oh, it's this brilliant system to say hand throws are here and then this and the classifications. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's really great. You know, it's the first of its kind. To organize it in this method, most guys don't give a shit about that. They just came from work.
Right.
You know? How is this going to be useful for me? Am I going to get a good workout in? Am I going to make friends?
Sure.
You know? That's really most 99%. Of it, you know?
So, are they going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
You know? Back to when I was talking about like change the mentality. So not only are the judo clubs, most of the judo clubs in America, are this, keep everything cheap. So what does that mean? They never do advertising.
Yep.
They never, because they don't have the money for
No.
it. They don't go out and put on, events or joint events or set up a table at a tournament or if the town's doing, like a winter fest or a fall or just whatever, like they're having a band in town and like other people are vendors there. Like they need to start doing that, because you see a ton of stuff for jiu-jitsu specifically where it's like older people are doing these moves, and it's like it's easy and it's fluid. I think that, again, like you see all these high-level highlight reels of judo, and the majority of people are like, I can't do that.
No.
I can't do that, But if you have, you need to have more videos of older guys like doing ogoshis, just to be like, okay, well, that dude did it, and like that was slow and controlled, and it wasn't boom, So it's like, I think that we have to start getting that out a little bit more.
Definitely, man. Like I was looking at somebody's, I go do these seminars, all the time in clinics, and then I look at their website and I give them feedback and stuff like that, and I, if they ask, hey, if you want me to, and then we talk shop, And like 90% of the time, like you look at their website, it's someone upside down with the nicest throw, uranage or suplex. It's like, what makes you think the guy who wants to kind of work out after the thing and get in shape, or whatever reason that might be, 90% of people who want to seek this thing out, what makes you think that is what they want to seek out?
Right. Yeah.
No, it's not gonna.
No.
But if you pull up a judo school, this, and then you Google it, you click on the website, and you have all these people smiling, having a good time, and they're training, and they're in shape, and they look warm and welcome, and it's like, you know what? I like those vibes. I don't know what they're doing. They have these gis, and, and you're not doing any, maybe somebody's like doing some kind of judo-esque thing. Yeah. But it makes you a little bit curious, right? Why are these guys having so much fun? Why are they in shape? Oh, you know what? That guy looks like my neighbor. Let me go check it out. You go, and then it's fun. Yeah. Because you don't feel fear. You walk in, they welcome you. Somebody's like, hey, how are you? Did you sign up online? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, great. Come on, let me help you out with a gi. Size you up. Here it is. This gi is this. If you want to purchase one, you can. Or you can borrow one of ours. Which one? Yeah. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I don't want to wear someone else's gi. I'll buy one. You get that right off the bat. There it is. Yeah. Because now they're not going to have a gi and not do judo. Something simple as that. That's, like business 101. And all that is missing in the majority of the gyms in the United States in judo. Yeah. No. And I think we just have to just work together, and I mean, like I said, it's awesome that, people are highlighting, high-level judo a little bit more. I mean, I obviously like the algorithms know that I want to see that stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of highlights of, big events, which is awesome. But again, it's like, for the average person that doesn't know anything about judo, and if I see that, am I going to say, okay, I'm a 35-year-old guy, do I want to go do that? Yeah. I think, like I said, like we have to start promoting this grassroots stuff. Picture a guy getting like kicked in the head and knocked out viciously, and he's like shaking and then composed. He does the thing, and it's the most violent thing you've ever seen. And then it's like cuts out and like, hey, come to our dojo. You're not gonna go there. What makes you want to do that? So it's like kind of like that. You know what I mean? We got to be smart in the way we present the sport to people. We need more people showing the fun side of the stuff. You need personalities, and I'm 40 now, so I'm not going to do a silly dance on TikTok or anything like that. But you need young people buying into this thing. Sure, yeah. And the people who are running the clubs like, no, judo guys are like this, and we need to get away from that a little bit. We're in an attention economy. So we got to be able to kind of showcase the fun side of judo. I think it's really important,
And it's also like you were talking about earlier, how if you go super strict, super traditional, to where it's like, don't come on the mat, I didn't tell you.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Everybody, like we have to sit in seiza for 3 minutes, you have to sit silently. I mean, it's like you have to ask to leave the mat. You have to, it's like all this very strict stuff. It's gonna turn people away.
Oh yeah, dude. There's a Taekwondo school near my house. And then it's like, I know it's fun in there. I've been in there. And I know on Saturdays they do birthday parties. and then they do cake cutting with a samurai sword. It's not even their culture.
Really?
Yeah, it's like so it's like the ninja sword and samurai. It's like and it's a Korean guy doing it, you know?
Yes.
But dude, that program there, it's so freaking fun.
They're having fun.
You know, and then like you know, that's how you keep kids, right? That's how you keep kids involved, and we could do a little bit of that. Yeah. I'm not saying eat cake on the mat, you know, and then have a thing and
maybe throw somebody onto a cake. You know?
Yeah, you know, definitely something that we could learn from them, though. You know, right? You got to do that stuff, some of that stuff.
Yeah, of course. You know? Yeah.
I mean, as I say that, I run no kids parties out of here.
Yeah,
just because of the hassle of it all, you know.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And then I have to force my employees to do it, and then if I'm not willing to do it, I'm not making those guys do it. You know. So there is a little bit of hypocrisy there when I talk about it, but people are willing to do it, right? And then, you know, we need more of that. We need more guys like that, you know?
So when your dad opened the place, was it pretty traditional? Has it changed over time?
He was very traditional. He ran it like it was Japan. And, you know, we've all had the problems that every dojo has always had. And the judo program was a hard-nosed judo program.
Right.
So, you know, we'd have only 15, 20 guys.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
Sure.
And then we had the Japanese judo jiu-jitsu with the aikido and the karate to support it. So, but even karate for a long time, we did hard sparring. You know? Right. And then the Japanese jiu-jitsu program we had, it was like an MMA thing because there was striking, takedowns, grappling, pinning, choking, arm locks. So it was like old school MMA almost. Yeah. You know, and then little by little, as we got into the 80s and 90s, he was like, all right, you know, we got to slow this thing down because we're getting injured. And then, you know, we know better, right? Yeah. Oh, this guy got knocked out. That's not good. No. You know, oh, this guy's got to go to work. And then the neighborhood changed. So it started getting a lot, you know, less of that. But it was always been a traditional method, right? Like you do this, you show these techniques, this is the thing. And I grew up in that. You know, so I've seen all that, you know, and it's great. It is good. But it's not for everybody. No. You know? It's not. Yeah, and especially now, you know, we're living in 2025. And, you know, I'm on the Upper West Side in Manhattan, and, you know, it's a different world. You can't keep people with that stuff, you know? So we've definitely adapted throughout the course of the years, especially in the last 10 years for me, you know? We accept credit cards now.
So when you started maybe either teaching or wanting to, you know, take over the gym, did you immediately want to take the tradition out, or did it slowly just change over time?
Little by little. It was just, you know, being introspective, thinking about the best way to do stuff. Yeah. And I remember first when I was like in my late 20s, I was like, all right, I took it over. And we did tons of hard drills, tons of hard throws. Right. And it was kind of like this thing. And, you know, people were getting hurt all the time and even more, right? Because I just coming off the international circuit. And then it's like, you know, this is not working. You know, I can't make a living doing this. You know, and it's just like people getting hurt. I'm always worried about, you know, people getting injured. And it just really wasn't a sustainable thing. I'm like, yo, Dad, how did you do that all throughout these years? And he's like, I'm telling you, you know, you got to get a day job. And do this as a hobby almost, you know? Right. Yep. And then so... I was like, there had to be a better way, right? Sure. Where I could make this my full-time thing. And little by little, I was able to make these small adjustments. You know, give you an example. Tanyatoshi. Bandit. No Tanyatoshi, right? Right. Black belts, they're a little bit, they can, but they don't really. You know, no Tanyatoshi, no drops below green belts. If you lift someone up, you don't finish a suplex. Sure, yeah. Stuff like that. You don't fight off the wall. You know, all these rules, right? Beginner matchups are not allowed, you know, and even like the beginners barely do randori. Right. Because it takes away the frustration of like, hey, I just learned this thing. Why can't I do it? You know, and the why can't I do it is either internalized, I suck, or no, this guy's too big, or he's stiff arming, or there's just too many reasons for it not to work, and you can never figure it out. Sure. Right. And then the sense is like, oh, you know, your Kuzushi's not there. It's like, what the hell does that even mean? You know. And obviously, me as a sensei, I can't watch every single person, every single interaction. So you see these senseis, these omnipotent senseis, like, oh, it's because of this. You don't freaking know. You're over there texting. Right, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, you know, we want to, like, take the human error, this kind of a natural thing, you know, sort of out of it, right? So little by little, like, I started kind of optimizing it in a way where it was more fun. It was more community-oriented. It was... sort of gamified in a way. You'll see it tonight.
And what did you do to take it from, Shintaro has to have a day job and do judo? Like, what were some of the things that you started doing and making changes to where you could step away from your job and do this full time?
Well, I had multiple jobs and I hated it, so it's like kind of like little by little, it's like, all right, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Because I know you do other stuff now.
Yeah.
I know you do, you work with Fuji and you get some endorsements from, Judo TV and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on, but, yeah, man, you just see the vision, like this dojo thing. It's here, the space is here, we're established, we have a great reputation. It's like, why not try to build it? And figuring out a lot of the back end stuff, was key. And, even just like in the last 6 months or so, we ramped up ad spend. Yeah. And just turning that lever on without changing anything else. Our system's not perfect in terms of like answering phone calls and returning emails. And I forget a lot of stuff. So it's definitely not perfect. And you could, I've read all the books. Right? And we're not doing all those things, but just turning on that lever, and having that critical mass where the gym community builds on itself. That's kind of, in the last 6 months, we've been kind of looking at this, and I monitor the Google ads and something that I do every day. But it really is like this compounding thing of like, I try this, I try that, this works, that doesn't work. I'm not good at this. So I got to hire someone that is going to be on top of it. I'm forgetful. I start things I don't like follow through a lot of the time, so I get bored easily. And then my real estate project comes up, and now my attention's on that, and then I neglect this thing going on. Yeah. So there is a lot of trial and error, a lot of error, really. Right. But some of these little things that happen, it compounds, I think. And then little by little, you want to hit critical mass, right, where the community builds on itself. And now we have a crop of guys, maybe 10, 15 intermediate guys that are very close-knit, and I trust them to lock up after the gym. Yeah. Right? So now it's like, all right, guys, I'm out. It's 9:30. Yeah. I'm going home. My child is waiting up for me. I trust that they'll clean. I'll trust that they'll lock up. And then whoever wants to stay and do extra drills and hang out, I could just let them be in charge of that, Yeah. And that's the critical mass that I'm talking about,
And as you took over and started making these changes, how did your dad feel about, changing to more of like a laid back approach? And, what does he think, now as compared to maybe when you first started making these changes?
I mean, I think he was very resistant to it. He ran it for 50 years, and every time he would come, it would be a micromanagement of like, listen, man, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the biggest thing was like, we had this strip of like the space here with this chair and this desk. And then we expanded the mat area, by 3 feet, and we took away that spot. Yeah. We don't really need that spot. Yeah. We could use that. We're in New York City, there's 1,000 square foot mat space. It's tiny. It's not like where you are, you have a massive space, right? So this little bit, of like, all right, we can get 2, 3 more people doing tachiwaza or 5 or 6 more newaza. It's crucial. So when I took away that spot, he was pissed. How dare you? So it was very challenging. Sure. And in the last maybe 10 years that he was coming here, every time he would come, you'd be unhappy about something. Really? But then little by little, he sees me doing judo and the guy's getting better and, he started accepting of it. Yeah. And now he sees everything on YouTube. Okay. And so he's a fan of that. So he's just so happy with my teaching abilities. Yeah. So he hasn't really said anything. Yeah. But if he walked through right now, he would be like, why is, there's so many criticisms. His place is dirty. Yeah,
old school Japanese.
Yeah, he is. He's 87 now, though. He's definitely slowed down. Although he just doesn't have the energy to kind of fight me on everything.
That's awesome.
But it took a lot of time.
I bet. Yeah.
Right, and then switching over to taking credit cards was a thing. He didn't take credit card for years, so he would keep in his book who paid what. And they'd have to bring cash. Yeah. Or sometimes it's a check, whatever it is. And then he would give it to my mom, who was the bookkeeper, and then she would go deposit it. And then when we get audited by the IRS, my mom would just show meticulous handwritten records of every deposit, everything, every receipt. It was unbelievable. I don't know how they did that for 40-something years. And a guy would walk in and be like, hey, listen, you haven't paid. Go bank right now. Yeah. And then you get called out. And then you look like an asshole. Why would that guy want to come back? So it's like, that was like, we got to accept credit cards. That was one of the first things I did. Yeah. you know. And even then, he was like, you know,
Yeah.
cash is king. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And then he'd go to Best Buy to buy a TV, and he'd pull out a wad of cash, and that was people just assumed he was in the mafia. You know,
right.
It's a weird thing. You know, right? The old school guys are cash is king. You know,
Right.
You probably have a parent or a grandpa that's like that.
I did.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and I haven't showed you pictures of it yet, but so I teach judo at a jiu-jitsu place on Fridays and Saturdays, and we're looking to actually do a kids-only program one day a week as well.
Good.
But on Saturday, I just had a 1,200 square foot building built in my front yard.
That's amazing.
And I already have the mats bought and everything. I'll have about 800 square feet, and I'm going to start, teaching judo.
That's great.
And I mean, I mentioned this to Colton and things like that, but I investigated the cost to rent the place out in, and I'm just in, close to Charlotte, but outside of Charlotte, it's just small towns.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking for 1,000 square feet for a place that is just like falling apart. It's like $1,500 is the minimum.
For sure.
And if you go, so I could move into a place for $1,500 a month and only doing judo. It's going to be hard to make the rent anyway for a while. Yeah. And then I found out that if I want to make renovations, they're 100% on me. Yeah. So it's like, so that sucks. So I'd have to dish it out. Yeah. So I decided to go this route, and financially, it's easier. I think I only literally need like 5 students, and that'll break even. Good kind of thing. Yeah. And then it increases the value of my house. Yep. And if for whatever reason either I don't want to do it anymore, or it doesn't work out, or whatever, now we have a nice building on the property.
Yeah, turn it into an ADU.
A what?
An ADU, an accessory dwelling unit.
For short-term rental stuff?
Or something. Yeah.
Something?
Or
okay.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Okay. So, what would be some things that you would suggest for me as far as, getting some people to come and try judo out and come into the doors and, because I some people like having it on my property, that's going to turn some people away. Yeah. Other times, people are going to say, that's kind of cool. Yeah. But what's a couple things that you think? So I'm not looking to get 100 members, but,
well, I think you should.
Okay.
I think you should.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think, any business book would tell you marketing is getting in front of people that want what you're selling or want what your service is. Okay. And the majority of something like judo is you're the forward-facing guy. So to show everyone, hey, come to my house and train, you have to be out there shaking hands, doing community events, doing birthdays, going on these things, networking, really. Okay. Because if you're an affable guy and, you're already doing it, getting in front of the camera, people could see your face, you talk. I think that's the first and foremost and most important thing. Okay. And marketing gets put into this bundle of all right, ads and this and social media. But it's a lot more than that. Just getting in front of your people who potentially will be your students, Okay. I don't know what your connection is with the school systems, or I don't know if you have a kid or not, but if you have families and, networking and getting out there in front of those people, I think is the most important thing. And if you want them to overcome the barrier of, hey, come to my house and roll around with me, then you got to show them that you're a well-adjusted guy with tons of good things to share, really, So I think this is a big piece of it. And I think you do community events and volunteer in local things. And if you have a T-shirt, I know what the Cold Judo Academy.
It'd be Student First.
Yeah, Student First Academy. You have that shirt. You go on around. You talk about it. And then same with me. We just had a guy here. He's my neighbor, 2 doors down. And then we walk our kids to school every day. He's like, "What do you do at judo? You know what it is? Yeah." And then, it wasn't my intention to but he was like, "Oh, I've always been interested in martial arts." Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, look me up. Cool. He looked me up. Awesome. And he goes to the thing, the pixels pick it up, and then they serve him ads. Yeah. Because he went to the website. So now he's seen it all the time. Hey, by the way, I went to your website. I found your website, and then now I'm seeing ads, and now I went to your YouTube channel. I saw you speak in judo. Yeah. I've had multiple martial arts teachers come from teachers. You're great at this. Yeah. Why don't you come on and do a class? Now he's a member, and that wasn't my intent.
Sure. Right.
In the morning, I'm like groggy. I'm like, oh, I gotta drink
Right.
coffee, whatever. But like that kind of a thing, you know. And then maybe he brings 2 more.
Yeah.
Right now, all of a sudden, oh man, that guy's a judo school. Word gets out,
Yeah.
and these little interactions turn into big interactions, like we talk about at compounds. You know.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of judo clubs in North Carolina as a whole.
And
I mean,
that's a huge opportunity.
even Charlotte, who
Yeah.
I don't know what the population is. I mean, million. I
Yeah.
don't know. Whatever it is.
Yep.
There is one judo school that's been there for a while, but they're like, you know, we're gonna make it as cheap as possible. You know, it's like nobody knows about it. You know. Then we have me teaching at the club that I work for, and this will be the nearest judo club for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I kind of maybe so, well, when I first like promoted it, in my head, it's like, I wanna show a little bit of wrestling, I wanna show a little bit of jiu-jitsu, I show a little bit of judo, you know. So like on the original like flyer I made, I put like judo, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, and people are like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to say it's judo, you know, because that's what it is, you know, and you want to specialize because like I got some people saying, well, what time is your jiu-jitsu class? Well, it's technically not jiu-jitsu, so, you know, so I learned that, but I think it'll be kind of like a diamond in the rough, and I mean, there's really no competition besides like jiu-jitsu, obviously.
Yeah, you got to have 100. You got to shoot for that. You know, you 1,000% should shoot for 100 plus. You know,
that'd be awesome.
Why not do it? You know?
That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah, let me help you get there. Then you have them for seminar.
Well, yeah, of course. I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you for a seminar. So
we got to do that. You know, you got to get the word out there, and people are like, "Oh, there's no money in judo. Judo, you know, it's so difficult as a business." Good. You know, that's great for me, right? Because the opportunities are even bigger. You know, judo was this massive thing, a commercial success, and it was easy to make money in it. Everyone would do it.
Sure.
And they'd have competition all over the place. Look at jiu-jitsu schools.
Yeah.
You know, they're fighting over students, fighting over territory that overlap in a 5-mile radius. We don't have any of that. There's a huge opportunity. You know? Huge.
Yeah. Right.
That's great. That's good.
Sure.
You know, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome. We're gonna wrap it up here. I know you said you got some kids coming in here.
Yep.
You know, I just, again, like, I can't say this enough. And, you know, I tell my students when I'm teaching judo, when I go around and do these, you know, judo for jiu-jitsu seminars or get asked to come to a wrestling camp or whatever it is, like, I just feel so incredibly honored and privileged and lucky to be able to do this stuff. And one thing that I love about the judo community is just how absolutely open and welcoming it is. You know, like I sent you an email, you're like, of course you can come up, you know, and that's awesome. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to class tonight. My private was awesome. And yeah, so yeah, I'm just very, and again, a fan and everything. So
Thanks,
this turned out very awesome. So I think the last question, you know, as you know, Shintaro, who's been doing judo for however many years, in your 40s now, you know, what does judo mean to you deep down, and you know, what does it feel like to, you know, put on your red and white belt and to come and teach class?
Yeah, it's very interesting, man. It's a self-improvement tool, first and foremost, you know, not just like a physical self-improvement tool, but a mental one. And you're supposed to be sharp. And there's this philosophy of like doing sport and academic simultaneously. So you can't just do the judo throws. And it's something my dad always said, like, what is a red belt, you know? And we had this conversation. And
does he have a red belt?
He does have a red belt. Wow. And he was like, you know,
Insane.
it's something. And he was kind of casual joking about it. He's like, you know, one day, you know, you develop this thing your whole life, like a Harai Goshi was thing, and it just goes, you know. And then after your Harai Goshi is gone, I can't do it anymore. You know, that's what you have left over, right? So it's this lifelong pursuit, this excellence that you get, and it's sort of a marker of like, all right, I've been in this long enough, and it's a reminder. You know, I like that it's half white also, the red and white belt, you know. So it's like, yeah, I got to have a beginner mind, and, you know, it's been tough year because I had knee surgery.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been kind of recovering from that. I'm 6 months in, and I'm nowhere near what I was for grappling wise, right? Because it still hurts, this thing.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit discouraging, but
Sure.
then, you know, you look back on the lessons of being, right, a self-improvement thing, and then the marker, and then all the stories and the ideas, and then it kind of propels you forward, you know?
Yeah.
Because life's tough, man.
It is.
Tough, yeah.
It is.
And we make best of what it is, and, you know, that's what it means,
awesome.
and that's what I love about it, you know?
I've kind of, in the last couple of years, really fallen in love with judo as the art, the beautiful art part of it, and, you know, just the self-improvement and just everything that, like, I really feel that it's helped me with in my life, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's really wonderful.
Beautiful
you know?
thing, man.
So anybody that chooses to listen, you know, try judo, but also, you know, get into some kind of grappling, you know, or martial art in general. You know, try wrestling, try jiu-jitsu. You know, if you want to do a striking art, do karate. You know, because it's going to teach you this self-improving pursuit for perfection that you never achieve, but you try to get as close as you can to it.
True.
You know, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Check out Shintaro's stuff. Any plugs before we hang it up?
Well, we got new gis on HigashiBrand.com, so you can
Nice.
check that out. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, there you go.
And the sandals.
Sandals, we got
tatami
tatami
sandals?
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Those are pretty cool. And then
Yeah.
videos, this, you know, I'm trying all of it. You know,
Oh.
not good at any of it, but like I'm trying all of it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'll put, you know, you send me links to everything, and I'll put them in the show notes.
Awesome.
And yeah, you know, check that stuff out. If you're in New York City, come to Shintaro's place. It's a very welcoming, and it's a nice, awesome experience. So yeah, but thank you everybody. Thanks for tuning in, Shintaro.
Yep,
Appreciate
thank you very
it.
much.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh Lord.
Gunji, you awake over there?